Hello, Pontiac. This is Mayor Waterman. I'm here to give you some timely announcements about what's happening in the city of Pontiac that I'm sure you'll be interested in. I'm here this morning with our department and division heads of the city of Pontiac, who have steadily been working for you and carrying on the city business, even as we are confronting this COVID-19 crisis. We have been moving steadily on, carrying on the work of the business, and made that transition very seamlessly to go from those of us who had to work remotely and those essential workers who are still in the field. That has been a transition that has enabled us to carry on the essential work of the city of Pontiac and still being reachable for your everyday needs. The number, the hotline that we set up was 248-758-3300, and we're still available for any of your needs or questions. First, I want to say that this COVID-19 emergency has very much encompassed all of our lives here. And I want to start by saying health and safety and wellness is the most important consideration for all of us. And we hope that you are observing the precautions and the health advisories that have come out steadily. We want to make sure that you know that we're working to observe all of that, and as well as now being in the COVID-19 emergency plan that we set up, we are also preparing for what will happen once the governor lifts the shelter at home order, and that we go back now to some form of the new normal as we move back our operations to our city facilities. Those preparations have been going on steadily, and we have a task force now within city government to make sure that we're being able to phase that in a way that is safe and healthy for all of us. That includes the fact that during this hiatus, we have brought in a special company to deep clean and sanitize all of the city facilities. We have also continued to adhere to the orders and the health mandates that have been set down, even for those of us who have been essential functions that they've had to come back to city facilities to fulfill. Thirdly, we're having installation of some of the precautionary facilities adjustments, including plexiglass shields for those who come in contact with the public as we resume the opening for the public in some order as the governor extends those orders. Thirdly, we are continuing the testing, and to listen to all the reports nationally, it's very important that we have testing. And that active site that was opened in Pontiac about 4 weeks ago continues to function. In addition to the fact I have continued to investigate, we have an offer of bringing in a mobile site for those of you who need that accessibility, as well as the fact that we will be the first city, I think, in Oakland County to talk about contact tracing, and that we're in negotiation to bring into the city of Pontiac to extend the testing. I know the most important announcements are, number one, the $7 million that council has passed to begin with the construction phase of the Phoenix Center settlement. And I'm going to tell you what I have decided to do for that particular proposal. Many people have been asking me if I wouldn't veto that, but I want to give you what my decision is in terms of working collaboratively with council on this very important matter later in this discussion. Number two, we have found that Pontiac, in discussion with Oakland County, which administers our federal grant funds, does have an additional $906,000 designated for COVID relief. That money is not yet received from the federal government, but I'm going to make a recommendation to council that that money be used to go directly to the hands of Pontiac residents who need it, including for mortgage assistance, rent assistance, and utility assistance. Many people in Pontiac have been adversely affected by the economic downturn, by the layoffs, and I want to make sure that this CARES relief money gets directly in the hands of those who can most benefit from it, as well as some of the small businesses. So I will making that recommendation to council as I try to get that added on tomorrow, because we must move quickly in order to get this money in the hands of those who most need it. Here are the citizens of Pontiac. And I just wanted to make that announcement here. I'll talk a little bit more about that later on during these announcements. But going on with the readiness of the city of Pontiac, one of the things in terms of business that we're continuing to do in Pontiac is to prepare the budget for the next fiscal year. In accordance with the charter, I did give the mayor's recommended balanced budget to council on May 1st as required by the charter. That I've asked council to let me discuss at the council meeting tomorrow. So I hope many of you are interested in that subject, as well as the $7 million for the Phoenix Center, as well as the CARES Act COVID relief. Will tune into that council meeting and have a chance to hear those discussions. Now, the budget, as I've said, shows the trajectory we are on of the financial stability. And in that budget letter to council, I did say that we have been able to accomplish and to fend off this coronavirus crisis without doing layoffs. Many other communities, realizing they were going to be set with reduced income and the economic impact of the COVID crisis that had affected them. But Pontiac has been always working with a lean and mean administration. We did not have any fluff or extras. Everybody was essential because we are working with a skeletal crew. Remember, I started my term as mayor of this fine city with only 24 employees in City Hall. So as we have increased and insourced services to the city of Pontiac, we have increased staffing, but we have increased it very judiciously, very cautiously, with an eye to prudent spending. So that means that Pontiac, which has built its financial solvency, has built its financial surplus, was in a situation where we actually are trying to hire some vacant positions. As we have taken in more DPW activities and insourced more of those, we have had some positions that we need to fill. So right now we have about 6 vacant DPW positions that are posted, but we're actually looking for capable workers who want to work in the city of Pontiac. So I want to spread that, and I want to let people know that we're continuing to publicize that and looking for those workers. To continue the city services in the manner in which we want to deliver them with quality and efficient performance. Secondarily, the jobs pipeline, which we had introduced in the city of Pontiac, is matching Pontiac residents who have been laid off or were out of work or want to increase their level of work capacity to jobs that are coming to the city of Pontiac. And right now we have 38 new building projects that are going on right now. Not to even mention Amazon that will be bringing in 1,500 jobs. So there are many jobs that are coming to Pontiac. This is the biggest building boom we've had since the early days of General Motors. We're attracting now a lot of new businesses to the city, and that's bringing new jobs. That job pipeline that we introduced a couple of years ago continues to be functional. And for those of you who are looking for those opportunities and to know what businesses are coming to Pontiac and what employees they will need, that is a number that you can call, and you will be able to connect with our human resource staff to find out how to match your skills with the jobs that are going to be offered in the city of Pontiac. So we were talking more about the budget and the transition of recovery. One of the things I will say in the budget message to the city council members that they did receive May 1st as required by the charter was that the trajectory of financial recovery that we're on, into which we now have a substantial surplus, will be dependent upon making sure that the settlement agreements that we had negotiated for the 2 major litigation items that were left by the emergency manager are carried through to fulfillment. And those are the settlement agreements both for the Phoenix Center and for the retiree health. And I'm happy to say the retiree health litigation, the settlement agreement, that is moving along, and I will have a further announcement about that as that goes to the IRS for final approval. But the Phoenix Center is still very much on our plate, and that's why it's very important that we make sure that we're managing to fulfill the terms of the settlement agreement. And I'll talk to you more at the end of this as my last announcement about the $7 million council wants us to start that process with, knowing that that $7 million is not enough to fulfill the terms of the settlement agreement. It's enough to get started, but we do that with the fact that we want to work collaboratively with the city council, and the fact that I will accept that money and get started with the understanding the council knows that they still have some time to come up with the rest of the money and the way to finance that amount to fulfill the terms of the settlement agreement. And that's why that's so important, as I say to them in the budget message, and that we will talk more about tomorrow at the council meeting. The other announcement I alluded to was the fact that as we are looking for COVID relief regarding this coronavirus, and I'm happy to say that in this community, we've handled this coronavirus crisis with many people stepping up to support our community. There are many organizations that have stepped up to provide food and grocery support, utility support, and they're too numerous to mention. I know there's a large group that is working together to provide meals at various sites around the city. A lot of the nonprofits have united with that. The COVID-19 relief team, congratulations to them. The city of Pontiac has also had a number of partnerships. We've extended our partnership with Meals on Wheels to feed our seniors and those who are homebound and disabled. And I think with today's delivery of food, we will be now up to 21,000 some meals, 21,000. So that's just great that this community pulls together. We are working together to come out of this crisis. And I think all of you who are in any way supporting that, supporting the program we have to bring meals to the first responders and the essential workers by also supporting our local restaurants, which are asking for business in this troubling times. So we thank you for that. But in addition to that, we have found that Pontiac is going to be the recipient. Money's not here yet, but as a result of the CARES Act, there is $906,000 that is earmarked for Pontiac for CDBG funding that is associated with the CARES Act and COVID-19 relief. This is something that because Oakland County is our grantee and handles our administers our grant funds, because that department was dismantled some years ago, and because it's taken us some time to clear up the violations that HUD had cited the city for back in 2010, 2011, 2012. We've now cleared that up, and I am now conducting a feasibility study to see whether we still need to pay Oakland County 20% to administer those funds. So that is ongoing and will be part of the budget discussions that I'm presenting to council. But the question remains that we need this money. Pontiac has been adversely affected, Pontiac residents, and I feel for you what is going. It has not impacted anyone in this community, particularly now that the fact we're discovering some of the demographics and how some proportions of the population have been affected more adversely than others by the mortality of this dread disease. So we're all in this together. And one of the things that I'm going to recommend, and I hope that council will accept an add-on to the agenda tomorrow, because we do need to move quickly. But in this $906,000, number one, I'm waiting for Oakland County now to recognize the fact that this is money that is available and will be available for Pontiac for us to use for COVID relief in manners that I think are important to get out quickly. This, we spent all of last week talking to Oakland County and making sure they understood that we knew that that money was there. They had to go through their records. But what we're also waiting to see if they would, given the fact that this is emergency relief funding, if they would waive the 20% fee that they generally charge for administration. If they would, then we don't have to spend an $180,000 to them for administration. We'll administer it ourselves if we have to. But I want to make sure that every dollar we can goes to the hands of Pontiac citizens who need this money, who've been adversely affected, who've been laid off from their jobs, who have had people who've had health problems. I feel for you. We want to serve you. And I hope City Council will work collaboratively with me to make sure this gets in the hands of those who most needs it for this COVID relief. And that's going to be my recommendation. In addition to other forms of COVID relief that have come out, that there was money that came to Oakland County that they did work with each of 12 districts, Pontiac being one, with people I appointed to give grant awards to small businesses in Pontiac. And those awards were announced with $4,000 each, which we hope will help these small businesses get through this period of crisis and economic downturn caused by the coronavirus crisis. At this time, I would like to announce the names of those businesses right here in Pontiac and to congratulate them on getting this award. Oakland County has announced that in conjunction with the County Commission, I do want to recognize our County Commissioner, Angela Powell, for her help in this effort to also have another $12 million that they're going to add to the pot for additional rewards and awards for small business loans and grants under this program. But the ones who had won in Pontiac, 22, I'm going to read off their names now and say congratulations to them. That's 47 North Incorporated, LDM Tax Express, True Tax Services, LLC, Encore Performing Arts Center, Raphael's Donuts, Tots Learning Center and Childcare, LLC, Brown Construction Collective Plus, Good Samaritan Lutheran Church of Pontiac, the Boudoir Loft, Creative Arts Center of North Oakland County, the Hink Studio Incorporated, North End Studios, LLC, Sudith Construction, LLC, Experimentation Brewing Company, Some Bridges Construction and Maintenance, Coney Cafe Incorporated, RE Fund Pike Street, LLC, Box Boys Moving, Oakland Diner and Grill Incorporated, We're All About You Salon and Spa, and Loving Family, LLC. Congratulations to you. We're so happy that you've got these grant awards. We hope that this will help you to sustain yourselves during this crisis, to come back stronger and better as we lift some of this economic effect. And Pontiac can now get back to some of your favorite businesses. And I know some of your favorites, Pontiac citizens that are on this list that you want to see to sustain so that we can come back and they can get through this crisis and still be very active businesses right here in the city of Pontiac. We want to continue to support you, and we do have a program of business support here in the city of Pontiac. Many of the things that we have done to support our small businesses, we continue to have in place, but this is one of them. I do thank the people that I appointed to be on the selection committee, including Dominique Head of the Regional Chamber of Commerce, Art McClellan, who I brought back from retirement. He had been the former president of the Pontiac City Council. Came back, brought him into duty to sit on the selection panel, as well as Chris Jackson of our own Pontiac Main Street. So we look forward to having other award announcements and loans, and we want to continue to support you in ways to give out the information about what is available to our businesses, large and small. In conjunction with Matt Ibb, who is on this call as well, we brought in to help with real estate and economic development issues in the city of Pontiac. We have given conjunctly 2 teleconferences now on business support and the business aid and relief that's available through the COVID Act. And we will give another one as new information comes up. And this is a dynamic flux of activity that new information is coming up, and we want to give this to our businesses in Pontiac so that they can take advantage of some of these award processes. Another business process that's ongoing is the medical marijuana. Some of you, many of you attended the press conference in Town Hall we had last week And this was because there was in Pontiac a very long process to get this application review process going on, which is the city clerk, our interim city clerk, Garland Doyle, is in charge of this process according to the ordinance that was passed by the voters. This is the will of the voters, and from the beginning, when this process started with that ballot in August 2018, where the voters by one vote decided to implement medical marijuana in Pontiac. But no matter whether it's one vote or 100, this is still the rule of law now, the city of Pontiac, and we are here as a city administration to follow the will of the voters. So we wanted to do that with three principles I introduced from the very beginning, and we have followed throughout. Number one, I want this process in Pontiac to be one of integrity. And to that extent, we had all the people involved, we asked them to sign a conflict of interest. I have done that. All the planning commission has done that. So we wanted that, number one. Number two, we wanted to make sure that we captured the economic development advantages that medical marijuana could bring to town. And so we had constructed the ordinances, had gone through all the moratoriums and ordinance revisions to be able to make sure that we did that. And three, we wanted to make sure that we got substantial community benefits. As these businesses were coming to town, it did say in the ordinance that they had to have a community benefit, and we wanted to guide them for things that were important for the city to have that we knew we needed to help with our progress. So these were the things that we wanted to capture, following the will of the voters, and the will of the voters, everybody agreed upon the fact that they did not want these businesses brought to their neighborhoods. So that's what we wanted to move along, and with 6 moratoriums and many people depending upon Pontiac to follow the will of the voters, I vetoed the 6th moratorium, and from that, the city clerk did set a deadline date of May 1st to begin reviewing those applications, some of which had been sitting in his office since August of last year. So we were getting a lot of concern from people who had invested in Pontiac and were wondering why this review process had not started. We had given extra aid, had brought in all the different resources that the clerk has asked for now. We just want to help him in every way possible to move along. Having missed that May 1st deadline, we did have a town hall on May the 7th, and that was received by a lot of those who had questions about what the holdup was in Pontiac. And we were able to tell them that we had worked with the interim clerk. We're hoping that we could help him get this action plan going so we can start reviewing those applications and get those resolved in a timely fashion. We also were able to work with him on revising his plan. At first, he wanted to replace all of our departments in terms of reviewing the applications. And we convinced him that, for example, our planning department and our building and safety department did not have to be replaced entirely by experts outside. It would cost the city extra money. So he came to agreement with that, and now we're ready to start. So I have a sense that we will be doing that very certainly. We will continue to do everything we can as an administration, and that's one of the things I've assigned Attorney Gibb to making sure that that process continues to flow in a way that will be adherent with the will of the voters and the needs of the city of Pontiac to fulfill the economic and community benefit advantages that we can reap from this. The next item, an announcement I would like to do is that, although we have closed the Youth Recreation Center to active on-site involvement, as well as the senior centers that are closed, we continue to want to engage at the youth center, the youth of Pontiac, almost 3,000 of whom have been engaged in some form or other with activities that were going on at the youth center. In this world of coronavirus, we have adapted to many different ways of communicating, of engaging, of having activities. And I'm happy to announce now that we have a partnership, a new partnership that will help us to engage our students who can't come to a center that's closed for right now, but through virtual activities. And this is something that we're going to launch next Monday. We're in the process now of training our PIREC staff who are still actively engaged to come and to learn how that's done. And we'll talk more about that. But we want to provide this at no cost to our Pontiac youth. This is being paid for through the millage and also through the fact that I was able to negotiate a very good memorandum of understanding with this partnership. And the partnership is with the Boys and Girls Club of America. Many of you remember them fondly of when they were involved in Pontiac years ago, and that we're bringing them back for this partnership now to help the citizens, the youth of Pontiac. This will be available to any youth 6 to 18 years of age, and according to the millage that you pass, they do need to be residents of Pontiac. We do want them registered at PIREC, and if they are registered as at PIREC, being the Pontiac Youth Recreation and Enrichment Center, they'll give you a number for registering if they haven't already. But these are going to be kind of online, exciting online activities, including sports drills, including coding classes for computer, including pajama parties and DJ parties and mask making parties and all kinds of things. I know that our youth have gotten used to now using their Chromebooks to do their online education for their classes. Now they'll have online capability of doing the fun things and the activities that have engaged them at the youth center, but now we're going to do it through Zoom. So you'll see more about those announcements. Watch for the Facebook page for the Youth Rec Center for those announcements to come out, and we want to engage all those youth in Pontiac to come out and participate in that. So that'll be great. Now, bringing up again the $7 million for the Phoenix Center settlement agreement to start the construction. As we sent out the FAQ, the frequently asked questions document to the citizens of Pontiac, we had many people who responded and said, oh, thank you for updating us. We did have a lot of questions about what had happened with that process. And so we were able to have people realize that this process started for the settlement agreement, the 2-year process that was set by the mediator who was working on behalf of the court that handled the litigation about the Phoenix Center. And that was settled when the Pontiac City Council did sign the settlement agreement in 2018, November. So the city of Pontiac, by terms of that settlement agreement that was signed off by the city council and myself, was that we had 2 years to fulfill the terms of the settlement agreement. Now, in the 18 months that we are into the settlement agreement, as you see from the FAQ, the frequently asked questions document, we have not met the timeline of where we need to be. And so that was the urgency of getting that message out to both the citizens and to the city council, because ultimately the ball lies in the court of the city council to make the steps necessary to move this process along to meet the deadlines. One of the things that we did engage was a firm called IDS, and that's the architectural and engineering firm that the city council agreed to pay $600,000 worth to produce this report. This report is now available. It was available May 1st. May 1st. We attempted to bring it to the city council on May 5th so that they could hear the report that they had paid for about the actual costs for meeting the terms of the settlement agreement. And the council did not vote to hear it last Tuesday. So administration is bringing it back to the meeting of the council meeting tomorrow. Today is Monday, May the 11th. That council meeting is Monday, May 12th, depending on when you see this broadcast. So we hope those of you who are interested in that and want to hear the IDS report, that weren't present for the town hall when we did have IDS present their initial report, but that will show you what in today's prices it will be to meet the terms of the fulfillment of the settlement agreement. As we say, that is very important that we not default on that settlement agreement. And that is of ultimate importance for making sure that we maintain the trajectory of financial success we are on and not have possibly residents subject to a levy default of that settlement. So the announcement I made at the beginning, and I'm going to again expound upon, is that despite those people who have said $7 million is not going to be enough to meet the terms of the settlement agreement, as IDS is going to report to us and has reported to us. In fact, we knew that when council first signed the settlement agreement, because I have the letter right here from the city attorney, who, when council signed the settlement agreement, said it would be about $18 million. So council knew this early on. But we continue to update them with the most real-time information that they have paid $600,000 for in this IDS report. And as I said, this will be available at the city council meeting, as well as it's already online from the town hall that we had that IDS cooperated on. Now, many people are concerned about the fact that we would be taking $7 million out of our rainy day fund. This is money that we have accumulated to set aside for emergencies, we know that there may be an economic downturn because of the coronavirus crisis. So many people were concerned, including the financial advisor of the city, the finance director, the city attorneys, that taking the $7 million out of our rainy day fund that wouldn't fulfill the terms of the settlement agreement might also decrease our bondability or our financial stability, and would leave us more or less bare if we did have another financial emergency come up. But I had to weigh that, and I had to weigh the fact that if I accepted this $7 million and did not veto it, like many people had advised me to do, at least it would show that I wanted to work collaboratively with council, and that I have asked IDS to see how they could do a package that we could start with that $7 million and accepting it with the understanding to council that that this isn't enough to fill a settlement agreement, but at least getting them started, given the fact that the time clock for the deadline is ticking. At least that would allow the first steps to be made in terms of preparation for everything else. Maybe get some of the things ordered that there was a long order time, because as we said, we have a limited amount of time to get the settlement agreement terms met. So given that, I have decided not to veto the $7 million, to take that and to have IDS give to us a first bid package. So at least we began, and that would give council more time then to find out how they were going to finance the rest of the money needed for the settlement agreement. So that being that, this is something that we will go in further discussion at the city council meeting tomorrow. But I wanted the citizens to be aware of that very important decision and the reasoning that went into that. This is an important decision, important for the finances for the city of Pontiac in many ways, as we have stated. Now, City Council President, many you may have seen the statement that he put out on our City Council broadcast station. And I listened to it myself most recently. And one of the things I wanted to see was to listen for the points of contention that I could maybe help to resolve. One of the things that the City Council President said was that he didn't have a copy of the settlement agreement, and yet he was speaking in terms of how to fulfill it without apparently having seen it and know about it. So he had the settlement agreement when he signed the settlement agreement, back in November 2018, and we have since sent it to them, City Council, a couple times. But I have here another copy of it. We will make sure that they get a copy of the settlement agreement, anybody who doesn't have it. Because yes, they should speak a lot knowledgeably, but how can you decide on such an important matter if you don't have the agreement that you're basing your statements on? So that we'll have. We're happy for all of those who put out their questions related to the frequently asked questions document that we sent. We're glad that has stimulated conversation. Some of the people say that they would like to be part of that the steering committee that I announced I would form to help to bring this settlement agreement to conclusion. After that, I will call those people into place. Many of them have already become advocates of that by sending in their comments to council meetings, which are read openly. We've had in the last 2 weeks many, many, many comments. It shows that people are interested in this and know the importance of settling this matter for the benefit of the citizens of Pontiac. I don't want to be stuck with the judgment levy. I don't want anybody else to be stuck with the judgment levy. And I don't want any of those possibly adverse effects that we talked about. This settlement agreement is not adhered to. And we don't go back to court with a clean slate. We go back to the court with the fact that there are certain punitive and reprehensible damages that can be visited upon the city of Pontiac, which could adversely affect the trajectory of success that we have managed to put ourselves on and work so hard to get to. So with that, there may be some of my other department and division heads here. All of us here are here to work and to serve you and to work in the best interest of the city of Pontiac. And if any of them would like to add to the statements I made and to the announcements, but I hope that these public service announcements that we've been having to stay in contact with you. I know as we're all sheltered in place in our various places of residence, where we're worried about how we keep our families and our friends and our loved ones safe and secure and healthy, how we face the effects of this crisis that has been visited on all of us in some way or the other. We're going to do that together as a community. And the last point I wanted to make, which I have made otherwise, is that we're here to serve you. We are continuing to do that, crisis or no crisis. We're here in the best interest of the citizens of Pontiac. We're going to do everything we can to be attentive to the real-time information that's coming down to keep our citizens and our city safe and healthy. And we will continue to carry on the important business of the city in a way that is with integrity, with is a good idea to maintaining our financial security, and with a good idea to continue to attract and to make this city the proud city that people are happy to live and to work and to be entertained in. And with that, if there are no comments from my department and mission heads, on behalf of all of the administration of the city of Pontiac, including Deputy Mayor Jane Bice DeSessa, all the department heads, all the division heads, and all of the staff, stay well, stay healthy, and we'll speak again.